2004, with more scripts and projects coming her way, Oscar winner Halle Berry was at the top of her game. She took the part of Catwoman for a reported paycheck of $14 million.
Catwoman was a potentially very interesting project. It was directed by a French director, Pitot, who had done a lot of music videos. On paper, it looked like a good idea. As it turned out, the movie was just a disaster.
As much as she was praised for Monsters Ball, Halle was critically panned for Catwoman. This performance garnered her a Golden Raspberry Award, Hollywood's honors for the worst movie making of the year. Halle won for Worst Actress.
At that ceremony, actors naturally don't usually show up to collect their awards, but she did. She surprised everybody by showing up and owning up to what a failure the film had been.
Winning the Razzie was a great opportunity for her to parody her emotional speech after winning the Oscars and show that she had a real sense of humor about herself and about the film. And there are very few people who've won a Razzie that have had the chutzpah, let's say, to go up and actually claim one.
Thank you, guys.
But it was more difficult to admit failure in her personal life. Halle remained close-lipped about her marriage with Eric Benet, but they had reportedly been having problems for years.
Obviously, she was much more famous than he was, and that created some jealousy, some tension.
Rumors circulated that Eric had been unfaithful during their relationship.
He allegedly had an addiction to sex and couldn't help himself from betraying her. So once again, she was devastated by a man and felt completely betrayed in the way she had felt probably as a child with her father.
In 2005, Halle and Eric divorced, but she emerged from this breakup stronger than she had from others.
By the time the relationship was over with Eric, she had won this Oscar and she was this A-list Hollywood actress. And to some degree, I think she had dealt with her demons and was able to get over some of her issues with men.
Through it all, the public and the Hollywood community continued to embrace Halle. In February of 2006, Harvard University's Hasty Pudding Theatricals named Halle their Woman of the Year. And on April 4th, 2007, she received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It was a sign of how far Halle had come, but she wasn't done fighting. As an African-American actress, she knew there was still work to be done.
In 2007, Halle was cast in the film Things We Lost in the Fire, which she is quick to point out was not written for an African-American actress. It was simply written for an actress, and she still had to fight for the role. So even years after winning an Oscar and a Globe and an Emmy, she still has to prove herself in order to get the parts that she wants.
Well, I think Halle Berry still feels that she's up against certain prejudices in casting of African-American actresses in major roles. I think that there is still some discrimination out there in terms of what people visualize.
But the film, Things We Lost in the Fire, suggested that times were changing. In a rare example of interracial casting, Halle played David Duchovny's widow. When Halle had acted in Jungle Fever, an interracial couple was the story. In Things We Lost in the Fire, an interracial couple was just a part of normal life.
I think her legacy will be as a breakthrough actress who's gone through a lot of the barriers that have been put up against African-American actresses and succeeded.
And by 2008, 41-year-old Halle had also broken down personal barriers. She was in a stable, long-term committed relationship with model Gabriel Aubry, who she met on the set of a Versace ad campaign. Halle emphasized that her priority was now her personal life.
We photographed Halle Berry for Ebony's Power 150 as one of the most powerful African-American people in the United States. And as we spent time with her, she admitted that the one thing that had eluded her up until that time was having a baby. As she was approaching 40, what would happen? And the great news was that we learned Halle's gonna have a baby.
Halle announced she couldn't wait to be a mother.
I know something magical and magnificent is happening was a life-changing event.
You come to see that she's a real person, a real woman, just like so many of us. And you get to see that reality that life is mixed with bitter and sweet, even for someone as beautiful as she is.
From the day she was born, she was faced with so many challenges. And throughout her entire career, she's faced challenges from being a black woman to being too beautiful, to not being considered a great actress, and she's proved everyone wrong.
Halle Berry will certainly be remembered as the first African-American woman to win a Best Actress award, but more than that, I think people will remember her just as a performer of strength and beauty and grace.